So you're taking over the star system already?
Under and final stages of deployment. Greetings, Commanders! Jurassic here today with another Elite Dangerous tutorial. So you're wondering what to do after your station is fully built, and you might notice it's going to have tape all over it saying under construction. Basically, you're just going to have to hop to a different system and give it some time to fully initialize. Then after limited time, you can come back to your station, everything will be fully operational, and you'll actually have a functioning station. So today we're going to be going over what to do after you get your station built. So we have a couple different things. So as you guys can see, our station's default name is the Smeaton Gateway. From here, if you want to change the name, you head over to the system map. Once you're inside the system map, you click on the station itself, you click on the eye at the very top, and this is where you can rename your facility. As you guys can see, everything is active. We do have suspended system colonization since we already have that station done. So once you click rename facility, this is where you have a couple different options. You can spend 5,000 of your art to have a permanent name change. So basically you're going to be allowed to change as much as you want, and it'll take about 2 days and 13 hours for the name to take effect. Or you can do the random name change, which it'll let you do 5 times. Now the other option is to use in-game names. So if you click on the random tab, you're going to notice it says renames remaining 5. If you keep clicking the random, it's actually going to allow you just to collect it as much as you want till you find a name that you want, and then click rename. And then from there, it's going to say remaining names 4. So it's going to be a lot more limited compared to having a custom name. However, it is free, and they give you 5 different, and this is per each different settlement or spaceport. Same with the custom, you're going to need 5,000 art for each of your different stations. This is going to be dependent on your system that you colonized. Some colonies are going to have places that have ground ports, as you guys can see. We have one inside of our sector 6A up here at the very top. My mindset is we want to have more of the useful items closer to the station and closer to the sun. The closer it is to the sun, it's easier to land on them usually whenever you jump inside of a system. But at the same time, we don't want to have a bunch of junk over next to our main gateway, so we're going to have a couple hubs for like combat. I know not everyone's a fan of the ground combat in this game, but this is going to allow the travel back and forth using the interstellar travel system to be much quicker. That way people are able to grind it out. So I'm saving this planet for more of that kind of activities. The CMM composites we're going to have up here at the very top planet. That's going to allow people to jump to the system, and then they'll immediately be able to head over to our top planet. Now, to do that, there's a couple things that we need to actually have as a general breakdown. So if we click the plus sign here. All right, so now that we went over the gateway and how to rename it, now what to do once you start colonizing. Well, there's a few steps that we need to do. So we click on any of the plus signs inside of our system. You need to go down to the tab that has the flag, click on select construction. Now from here, you're going to notice that some stuff's going to be grayed out. That's because you're not able to build things immediately. You're going to have to build up your system in order for you to build more things to it. So like if we click on Starport for an example, and like let's say we wanted an asteroid base, it's going to require 3 of the golden points, which technically we could start this project. This is going to be more of a costly one, sort of like your original Coriolis. However, you're going to notice a lot of the stuff inside of here is going to be much cheaper. So the way this works, outposts are going to be easier to build. They're always going to be tier 1, a construction point at the end, which is going to go up here to the very top, allowing you to build bigger things. However, if you're wanting to build an installation, this is where everything's going to sort of intertwine together. So we'll click on tier 1, and let's say we want a military installation. You're going to notice that this is going to require a ground settlement to be placed before you can actually work on your military installation. Like for the security changes for the tier 2, we have +7 in the security change versus this is only going to do +2. Now, another thing to keep in mind, before we were able to place down the ground ports for military bases, we had to have a relay station, which will allow us to build our ground settlements. Now, if you have a system with ground settlements, this is going to be a little bit more intertwined, where if you have a smaller system that doesn't really have too many options, you don't really have that much you're able to do. So maybe you're considering doing like a long list system. So from there, if you click the plus sign, you head over to construction. Like if you're wanting to have an outlaw system, you can go to the outpost and you can start building like a criminal outpost that's going to encourage more pirates. And you can also do installations, have a pirate base. That'll basically be more of your law list system. You don't really have to do too much because you don't care about security. So the pirate systems are going to have more money, but obviously you're going to be jumped almost constantly. Now, for the lawful side of things, there's a couple different options we can start with. In my personal opinion, we started with food since it made the most sense to me. So we did one ground food area, and then we also did one space farm. Basically, that's going to be able to allow our security force to be fed. You don't actually need this part in the game currently, as it's still in beta, so you can skip immediately to security if you prefer. However, keep in mind that some things are going to be required to build other settlements. So, like for example, under installations, you physically have to have a relay station in order to build some of the ground settlements for military bases. This is going to increase your security by a lot. You'll notice you can also get the tier 2 military installation, which is going to require the settlement military. So the only way to get this chain done is to have the relay station built first. Now, where would you decide to build your relay station? Well, you have a couple different options to think of. When someone jumps to your system immediately, they're going to immediately jump over to the sun. And then from there, they're going to have to fly over to different locations. So this top area here, I have a space farm and I also have a relay right next to the sun. That's basically going to be two things that people are never really going to be visiting. So my theory was, for security and food, we basically just pushed them sort of like in the middle of our system where people aren't really going to be visiting too often. So then we have the relay and we have the space farm. We're able to do more cool stuff. So another thing that we're able to keep in mind here is we have outposts, which are going to be much cheaper to build. So if you're looking for a less resource requirements, so like this military outpost, it doesn't actually have anything crazy when it comes to it needs something else built to build this. It's going to give you a +2 security changeover and a +1 initial population increase. Installations, for example, which are going to require a little bit more thought out planning. As you guys can see, there's not really too much for military for that. The relay station is going to be the one to allow you to get to the tier 2. This is going to have a huge drastic change in security. It's going to be... Actually, this one looks like it might be a little bit cheaper. But it does require the relay to be built. And it's also going to require a settlement military in order to be placed for us to build this specific installation. So for example, you're going to need a mining outpost, which is going to allow you to build some of this stuff on the ground for like the CMM composites. Now you're also going to notice that it has a -2 standard of living. So you want to balance entertainment, food, and security with standard of living. That way your system's able to prosper. It's not going to have pirates all over the place, and you can actually fly around and do stuff without getting interdicted immediately. When you first finish building your system, you're going to notice that pirates are going to be trying to attack you constantly now that you actually have a major port, because they have a reason to come over here. Now, overall system layout, we have the sun here, which is going to be where everyone jumps in at immediately. So we have a couple places that are going to be like super close to the sun that we don't necessarily care about too much. I feel like more of the middle territory is a little bit easier to manage. So this is where we're going to have more of the important stuff that people are going to be landing more constantly. Then the further away you get from the sun, this is going to be closer to like having the stuff that most people would never go to. Military installation. No one's going to be visiting this because you're not really going to be buying components for it. So we're just going to build our military post over in the back end there. However, to do that, we're going to have to go down to our ground settlements. So let's head over to a planet and see what to do from there. Alright, so once you get down to your planet, from here we have a couple different options. This is where the SC suite is going to come back into play. Now, one thing to keep in mind while you're flying around, this is going to require you to be pretty close. And on top of that, it's also going to still move your ship. So you want to make sure that you're fully still before you do your placement, because it will allow your ship to move freely. As you guys can see, it says altitude is too high, so you do have to get fairly close to the ground. Now, if it's your first time placing a ground settlement, it'll have a message pop up and it'll also actually slow your ship down for you. Alright, so now that you found a place that you're set aside with, you want to go into your SC suite. If it's the first time, you'll have a message pop up telling you a little bit about it. However, the general breakdown of it is you're going to place your settlements down. You have to be really close to the planet. It's supposed to have the terrain move around it. What I would start with, though, if you're trying to build a lawful system, is at least get a military settlement up and running. That way you can get the better military station up top. The better security is going to allow you to do more of your colonization without getting interdicted multiple times. So we're going to do military. Now from here we have tier 1 and tier 2 options. Since we did the space farm, we did the relay, we have a couple points that we're able to do for the larger military installation. You're going to notice that this security chain is going to be much higher than the tier 1, and obviously the size is going to be a little bit more beefier. Although it looks like the tier 1 has walls where the tier 2 doesn't, so that's kind of interesting fact. The overall cost, though, you're going to notice like the aluminum is $17.79 versus $11.86, but the security chain itself is going to be 4 stars versus 6, and you actually get a development level increase. So overall, it's going to be a slight increase in actual commodities, but it doesn't think it's going to be a huge amount. So let's go and get this place down and begin our construction. As you guys can see, we have 3 of these. It requires 1. So the space ones are going to be able to fund it, and it's going to reward us 2 construction points for other stuff inside of our system. Now, like for example, the tier 1, you're able to pick like different designs, where the tier 2, we don't really have that choice. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If you like something more aesthetically pleasing, you'll have to go with the smaller one, but it will have a much less security change. All right, so now that we click begin construction, from here we have a free cam, so you're able to change facility, you're able to rotate, you're able to do elevation. So we're going to use this system as a test for you guys. So typically you want to try to find a place that's relatively flat. The message that pops up whenever you go to place your first ground settlement says that everything should automatically be risen according to the terrain. However, it's going to give you like a rough estimate based on the holographics. We're going to try to match the terrain here and see if everything pops up once we finish our building. So we'll know more at the live stream on Thursday, but let's go ahead and start. This is a good location. You click V to confirm. Then from here, you just have to back out of it. Construction under deployment. Depart and return later. So basically, you just have to come back to this area, then you're able to start putting the commodities down here. Alright, so now that we have our military settlements built, we have a couple different options here. So we have planetary ports, we have settlements, and then we have hubs. Hubs are going to be for the bigger area. You're going to notice local factions can targets for opposition forces. Basically, this is going to be your ground war stuff that you're able to place down. So if you're wanting to have ground conflicts, I would put them closer to your main spaceport, so that way you're able to have a quicker travel back and forth. So we're going to have most of the hubs over next to the planet closest to that. And obviously the settlements, we're going to have a couple different types. The extraction settlements are going to be the ones that get us the most money, but are going to require a lot more material, and the standard of living is also going to go down. But at the same time, if we have an increase in standard of living from like food, for example, that'll take us from a negative to a medium, and that's also going to increase our system's wealth by a ton. Now, if you're trying to have a booming economy, you're going to need planetary ports. This is going to require the most construction points, so it's going to require you to build the other stuff first. However, as you guys can see, the developmental level change goes up a ton, security goes down, but the wealth goes up, standard of living changes high, tech high, population increased by a ton, and population increased by a ton. So as long as you have more than -3 security, then you'll be fine. So these are obviously for later on stuff once you build the rest. Now with that said, we have the tier 1, which are going to be ports. These are going to be much smaller, and they're not going to require as much items. You're going to notice that from here we can influence tech level, developmental level change, population increase, and security change. Obviously this one lowers security. Where we have scientific. Every single one of these is going to lower security. We don't have anything for military inside of this tree. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend bypassing your planetary ports until you get your military settlement up, because then you'll at least have a little bit of security. That way you're not interdicted constantly while you're trying to fill up the rest. Now the overall layout, we have some planets that just aren't going to be visited as often in our system. So currently we are here. This is where we're building our military base. Not too many people are going to be going out in the middle of our system, so the goal here is going to be to have more of a militarized moon, more of the middle area where people are less likely to visit. We'll have hubs over next to our main station. Now, when I was building this, I did do one mess up, but I put the food on the top closer to the sun. If I were to do that again, I'd put the food more towards like the middle area here. But we'll have our CMM composites over here at the very highest planet closest to the sun. Basically, they're able to go over there, grab their stuff, and then they're able to leave much quicker compared to putting the CMM like closer to your spaceport. However, because this is going to be a longer distance from the sun, but it's a much closer distance to the station. So if they're just trying to buy and sell, it'd be better. But if they're just trying to warp into the system, buy the commodities and leave, then obviously you would want to place it over here. So planets closer to stations, obviously that's going to be more the hubs, and things that actually would have like ground war would be a little bit more prevalent. Quantities that you can actually purchase in stations like that, I would put them closer to the sun. That way people just jump to the system and go over to like these top 3 planets to be able to do that. Same time though, you do want some security mixed in between. And then for the, the further on areas, this is where you put places that you don't think you'll be visiting too often. Now the spacebar, I don't know if we've actually seen a spacebar in the game, so we might try to put one like, but with that said, that's only if you have a system that has settlements. Obviously it goes a little bit more in depth with that. Now if you have a system, let's just like zoom in some. So let's say your system is just this group of planets here and they don't have anything that you can land on. Your only option is going to be spaceports. Well, from here, we can do construction. And then if you're trying to have it so you're not getting interdicted while you're trying to build your system out, this is where you would click on your outpost. You would do a military outpost. It's going to be a little bit less security. However, it's at least going to give you some perks to it without having to have the installation built, since you're going to physically have to have the ground port regardless of wherever you're at. So if you can't have a ground port, that's basically your best option. Let me know what you guys think of this layout and if you guys would do anything different, because I know some people's not really going to care too much about the food, but we're trying to keep like an even balance here. And our population is slowly growing because we started at 12,500. We're now at 15,100. We also have a government type of dictatorship with our economies, colony, and agriculture with security level low. So at least we do have a little bit of security inside of our system. If this guide helps you plan out your architect system, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Good luck, Commanders.